Good morning, grade 6 learners. Do you want to know more about the Earth and the changes happening to our planet? What are you waiting for? Come on and let us watch our today's episode. Welcome again in another scientific day of learning fun and new exciting facts about our planet. I'm teacher Ruby Ann Ramos Acuña, your science teacher for today. Don't forget to comment down your name and the name of your school. You may also type your answers and questions that are related to our topic in our comment box. And please prepare your science module, notebook, and ballpen for taking down some important ideas. Today's lesson is based on the most essential learning competencies in Science 6. Describe the changes on the Earth's surface as a result of earthquake and volcanic eruption. And at the end of our lesson, you should be able to describe changes on the Earth's surface as a result of earthquake, and describe the changes on the Earth's surface as a result of volcanic eruptions. We are now done with the lessons about friction, gravity, different forms of energy, and simple machines. We are on the last quarter to complete this school year, and I want to congratulate each of you that despite of the pandemic, we are still here continuing what we have started. I know that you have learned a lot from the past lessons that we discussed in the first up to the third quarter in science. And looking forward for the last remaining quarter, I hope that we will still learn a lot from the topics that we will discuss. To start our discussion, let us look at the video. This short video is a clip from an actual CCTV footage of the 9.1 magnitude earthquake that happened in Japan on March 1, 2011. So what can you say about the video? Have you noticed the shaking of the ground, the cars, buildings, and things inside the establishments? Have you ever experienced an earthquake? If yes, what is the first thing that you do? Do you feel afraid? And where would you go if an earthquake happens today? So let us find out all the answers to our question as we discuss our topic about earthquake and volcanic eruption. Earth is the third planet from the Sun, and known to be the only planet in the solar system that can support life. It is impossible to go very deep inside the Earth, but there are facts about it that were studied and discovered with the help of the scientists who studies about the Earth's interior. Who are they? Geologists are scientists who studies the solid, liquid, and gaseous matter that constitute the Earth and other terrestrial planets, as well as the processes that shape them through indirect observations. They observe the behavior of the seismic waves, examine rocks coming out of the volcanoes. They also compare materials on Earth's surface, observe the landforms, and they recorded and analyzed occurrences. And according to studies, the Earth's interior has 3 layers. These are the crust, mantle, and the core. So let us take a little closer to each layer. The crust is the outermost and the thinnest layer of the Earth, ranging from 5 to 100 kilometers thick. It is the upper part of the lithosphere. It is where the people and other living things live. It is divided into continental crust and oceanic crust. The layer of the Earth between the crust and the core is the mantle. It extends to a deep about 2,900 kilometers. It is the largest layer of the Earth that covers about 67% of Earth's mass. Scientists believe that the mantle is made of thick liquid containing the elements silicon, oxygen, iron, and magnesium that flow like plastic materials. And the innermost layer of the Earth's interior is called the core. The core extends from the bottom of the mantle to the center of the Earth. It is divided into outer and inner core. It comprises 32% of Earth's mass. The outer core is made of hot liquid molten materials that contain iron and nickel, same with the inner core. Now that we are familiar with the different layers of the Earth, did you know that the Earth's surface continually changes over time? It is true. There are high elevations and lowlands. There are shallow shores and deep trenches in the oceans. These landforms can change over time. Sometimes, lowland may become higher, and some highlands may turn into lowlands. And these changes occur on the crust by the forces within the Earth itself. The entire Earth consists of 10 major tectonic plates that are continuously moving. These tectonic plates push, pull, and collide against each other at the boundary or plate edges. The tension, compression, and shearing build up at the plate edges that make the rocks bend, break, or twist, which results to the occurrences of earthquakes. Earthquake is the shaking and trembling of Earth's crust that result from faulting of rocks and erupting volcanoes. When rocks are stretched or bent, they store energy, and if they are deformed beyond their limit, they break. And the stored energy is released, and the energy released is in the form of vibrations. And the vibration in Earth's crust are called earthquakes. Violent earthquakes are triggered when two plates slide past each other along faults. Within a fault, the weakest part where the slippage of rock occurs is what we call the focus. The area above the focus is called the epicenter. Strong shaking of the ground is felt at the epicenter. As the rock masses slide and slip against each other, the stored energy is released and moves outward in all directions as seismic waves. There are two types of earthquakes: the tectonic and volcanic earthquake. When two tectonic plates move suddenly against each other, an earthquake occurs. This kind of earthquake is known as tectonic earthquake. Earthquakes usually happen along faults. Faults are cracks in Earth's crust between two huge plates. The plate on each side of a fault grinds against each other with tremendous force. An earthquake occurs when the rocks along the edge of the plates suddenly yield to the pressure. Huge chunks of rock underground break and move. Earthquakes that are tectonic in origin cover a large area, while the volcanic earthquakes occur in areas that are associated with volcanic activities, such as in Mount Mayon in Albay, Mount Taal in Batangas, and Mount Pinatubo in Zambales, and to mention a few. As the fluid magma rises to the surface, its pressure fractures rocks, mosses, and causes continuous tremors that can be felt on small scale. Earthquakes happen almost everywhere. The study of earthquakes and seismic waves that move through and around the earth is called seismology. Seismologists are scientists who study earthquakes and seismic waves. They are the ones who monitor earthquakes, how strong it is, and describe the location of the earthquakes. But although they study, they cannot predict when and where earthquakes will occur. Seismographs are instruments used to record this motion of the ground during an earthquake. These instruments are installed in the ground throughout the world and operated as part of the seismographic network. So how can we measure earthquake? Magnitude is the energy released by the earthquake. Magnitude is measured by using the Richter scale. The Richter magnitude scale is used to describe the strength of an earthquake based on the height of the weight measured in the seismograph. The Richter scale of magnitude was created in 1935 by the American seismologist Charles F. Richter. Well, the measure of how much the damage earthquakes cause on the surface is called intensity. The shaking is measured on the modified Mercalli scale. The modified Mercalli scale was invented by the Italian scientist Giuseppe Mercalli in 1902. The rating intensifies in the Mercalli scale is based on the observation of damage brought by an earthquake in a particular place or location. The damage of an earthquake differs greatly from place to place and depends on the distance of the place from the epicenter, the type of surface beneath, and the structure and the design of quality of structures. So now, did you understand how the earthquake can affect the earth? But what are you going to do if an earthquake occurs right now? The Philippines is considered as an earthquake-prone area because it lies along the Pacific Ring of Fire. The Pacific Ring of Fire is an area circling the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ring of Fire is found in the plate boundaries formed by the movement of the underwater tectonic plates. To the east of the Philippines lies the 10,539 meters deep Philippine Trench. A plate on one side of the trench is being forced beneath the other plate. So how do earthquakes cause damage on the Earth's surface? The earthquakes had several effects on the human life as well as the surface of the Earth. The primary effects of earthquakes are many, like landslides, ground rupture, tsunamis, ground shaking, and liquefaction. In ground shaking, the vibration of the ground during an earthquake. The shaking triggers other hazards, such as liquefaction and landslides. Most earthquakes damage results from the seismic waves passing beneath buildings, roads, and other structures. Landslides. Earthquakes can trigger landslides and mudslides, especially in areas with water-soaked soils. Landslide may result in falling rocks and debris that collide with people, trees, animals, buildings, and vehicles. They also can block roads and disrupt utility lines. Liquefaction is the shaking from an earthquake can turn loose soil into a liquid during an earthquake. Liquefaction can undermine the foundations and supports of buildings, bridges, pipelines, and roads, causing them to sink into the ground, collapse, or dissolve. While the ground rupture, the vibration from the earthquake can lead to the ground displacement and surface rupture. It can be caused by the vertical or horizontal movement on the side of the ruptured fault. The surface rupture can cause hazards, as well as the damage to roads and buildings. So in this example, the surface rupture has caused large cracks and the collapse of a paved road. This could lead to injuries, loss of life, or impede people from getting home or to work. Tsunamis. An earthquake generated within the Pacific Ocean floor will generate a tsunami. Tsunamis are a series of very long waves. Large tsunamis which travel to the ocean floor to the surface are dangerous to human health, property, and infrastructure. So now that you learned more about earthquakes and some damages on the Earth's surface, here is another reason that affects the changes on the Earth's surface: the volcanic eruption. Volcano is an opening in the Earth's crust. Molten rocks, ashes, and gaseous materials are forced out through its opening. Ashes are fragments of lava or very small rocks that are blasted into the air by volcanic explosions. While the lava is a molten rock that erupts from a volcano that solidifies as it cools. While the magma is the hot, molten rock beneath the Earth's surface and collects before an eruption beneath a volcano called magma chamber. The passageway which magma travels to the Earth's surface is the main vent. If the main vent becomes blocked, some magma may escape through the secondary vent. Most volcanoes have more than one vent in which lava may pour from the volcano. At the top of the volcano is often a funnel-shaped pit or depression called the crater. A crater that becomes very large as the result of the collapse of its walls is called the caldera. A volcanic eruption happens when lava and gas are released from a volcanic vent. An eruption can be explosive or non-explosive. It is considered as an explosive eruption if there is a huge amount of pyroclastic materials, consists of lava, rocks, ashes, and volcanic glass, released into the air due to pressure. While in the non-explosive eruption, there is less pressure, that's why lava will just flow out of the crater. The volcanic eruption has primary and secondary effects. The primary effects directly come from the eruption, and the secondary effects emerge from the primary effects. Primary effects are the release of volcanic gases which contain steam, compounds of sulfur and chlorine, and this carbon dioxide that are harmful to one's lungs. Also, the lava and the pyroclastic flows may cause the secondary effects, like the mud flow or lahar. It is a mixture of water, ash, sand, rock, and mud from the slopes of a volcano. In addition to the secondary effects, some are landslides, flooding, interruption to food and water supply, damage to buildings, and businesses, and long-term issues with the tourism industry. But aside from the harmful effects of a volcanic eruption, there are also some effects that are beneficial from it. Number one is once the discharged volcanic materials were broken and weathered, this will help fertile the soil. The internal heat of a volcano can cause gases to come out from fumaroles, holes or the vents that can provide geothermal energy. And also, it provides industrial materials, and the scientists may further their studies and researches about the Earth's interiors through the rocks from the volcanoes. So according to the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or the PHIVOLCS, there are 53 active volcanoes in the country. If you are asking why there are so many active volcanoes, is because the Philippines belongs to the Pacific Ring of Fire, wherein a string of volcanoes runs around the edge of the Pacific Ocean, which earthquakes and volcanic activities normally happens. So how do volcanoes change the Earth's surface? Volcanoes change the Earth's surface by allowing molten rock or magma to escape the Earth and create rock formations or mountains. When it cools, it solidifies, creating hardened lava flows and rock formations. This changes the topography of the Earth. And a volcanic eruption can change the shape of a mountain by blowing the parts of it away. But volcanic eruption can also build up the land around a volcano when lava flows out and hardens on the surface. So now let us stop the heart reaction if you clearly understand our discussion about the earthquake and volcanic eruption. And now let's try this activity. Rearrange the jumbled letters to form the correct answer. Again, comment down your answer below. Are you ready? So number 1. Blank are scientists who study earthquakes and seismic waves. They are the one who monitor earthquakes, how strong it is, and describe the location of the earthquakes. 5 seconds. Comment down your answer. Very good. The correct answer is seismologists. Question number 2. It is the measure of how much damage earthquakes cause on the surface. 5 seconds. Comment down your answer. You are right. It is intensity. Number 3, it is the shaking and trembling of Earth's crust that result from faulting of rocks and erupting volcanoes. What is the correct answer? Comment it down. The correct answer is very good, the earthquake. And number 4, an opening in the Earth's crust. Molten rocks, ashes, and gaseous materials are forced out through its opening. 5 seconds. Comment down your answer. You are right again. It is a volcano. And for the last number, It is the hot molten rock beneath the Earth's surface. 5 seconds. Comment down your answer. The answer is magma. You did a great job, grade 6 learners. I know that you really understand our lesson today about earthquakes and volcanic eruption. Earthquake is the shaking and trembling of Earth's crust that result from faulting of rocks and erupting volcanoes. Tectonic earthquake happens when the two tectonic plates move suddenly against each other, while volcanic earthquake occurs in areas that are associated with volcanic activities. Seismology is the study of earthquakes and seismic waves that move through and around the Earth. Seismologists are scientists who study earthquakes and seismic waves. And the seismographs are instruments used to record the motion of the ground during an earthquake. Volcano is an opening in the Earth's crust. Molten rocks, ashes, and gaseous materials are forced out through its opening, while the magma is the hot molten rock beneath Earth's surface, and it collects before an eruption beneath a volcano called magma chamber. The opening of the volcano through which magma reaches the Earth's surface is the vent, while the crater is the funnel-shaped pit at the top of the volcano, and a crater that becomes very large as the result of the collapse of its walls is called the caldera. Volcanic eruption happens when lava and gas are released from a volcanic vent. An eruption can be explosive or non-explosive. And for our homework, let us answer the activity in your module in science on page 4. Again, our homework is the activity in your module in science on page 4. Again, I'm Ma'am Ann Ramos Acuña, leaving you with a quote by Petra Nemkova. We cannot stop natural disasters, but we can arm ourselves with knowledge. So many lives wouldn't have to be lost if there was enough disaster preparedness. Thank you for your active participation today, and see you again next week for another episode here in Valenzuela Live.